Thank you, Sarita. The next presentation will be on the overview of the pilot projects for your MTCC Caribbean host center. The outline of the pilot projects presentation will be on the rationale for the pilot projects, and then followed by the pilot project 1, the implementation of uptake methods for efficient ship operations using technology and ships operations. And then the objectives and outcomes of pilot project 1, followed by pilot project 2, which is on the implementation of fuel consumption data collection and reporting in line with IMO regulations. And then the main tasks associated with pilot project 2, and then finally, and very important, the pilot project partnerships. The rationale for the pilot projects. Greenhouse gas emissions from shipping are expected to increase, and developing countries, which include small island developing states, who play an important role in international shipping, often lack the means to improve energy efficiency in their shipping sectors. The graph on the left shows an exponential increase in the carbon emissions projected from 2015 to 2050. There will be a projected increase in carbon emissions from ships operations by between 50% to 250%. This is on a business as usual approach, which is on your right, shown by a vessel cruising along the coastal area. You can see the effect of carbon emissions through the use of maybe different fuels, and also maybe without the use of introduction of abatement methods, and also the uptake methods to reduce the carbon emissions. In this regard, IMO has implemented a number of technical cooperation and capacity building projects to address this issue, which include the Global MTCC Network project to achieve the GMN project's overarching aim on capacity building for climate change mitigation. From a maritime perspective, it requires the MTCC Caribbean to be the focal point in the region, to improve capability in the Caribbean region by working with maritime administrations, port authorities, other relevant government departments, and related shipping stakeholders to facilitate compliance with international regulations on energy efficiency for ships, and also to promote the uptake of low carbon technologies and operations in the Caribbean maritime sector through the implementation of pilot projects. And importantly, to raise awareness about policies, strategies, and measures for the reduction of greenhouse gas and other emissions from the Caribbean maritime transport sector, establish a pilot scale system data for data collection and reporting on ships' fuel consumption to improve Caribbean region ship owners and maritime administrations' understanding in this regard. And finally, develop and implement strategies to sustain the impact of the MTCC Caribbean's results and activities beyond the project timeline, which is towards the end of 2019 and beyond. Therefore, in line with the GMN project's aim, the MTC Caribbean's pilot projects will include the verification of energy efficient operations and the establishment of energy efficient baseline data for ships operating within the Caribbean region, and which in turn enable calculated and informed decisions on recommendations for use of uptake technology and operational methods to improve energy efficiency on ships operating in the Caribbean region. The MTCC Caribbean has implemented 2 pilot projects to actually look into the points that have been mentioned earlier. The first one is to establish a pilot scale system for data collection and reporting on ships' fuel consumption. And second, to promote the uptake of low carbon technologies and operations in the Caribbean maritime sector. Pilot project 1, which is on the implementation of the uptake methods for efficient ship operations using technology and ships operations. Pilot project 1 aims to capture the current baseline on the use of ship energy efficient technology within the Caribbean region, and based on the collected data, promote uptake of such new technologies through cost-benefit analysis. The data collection ship not only captures the amount of fuel actually consumed on board vessels during the voyage within the Caribbean region, it also captures the technologies that are in use on board these vessels, so that we can actually establish a baseline depending from the data collected, through the analysis conducted, and we actually come up with a baseline so we can see which type of technology has been implemented on these vessels to ensure the energy efficiencies within the baseline, the baseline, and also below the baseline. The goal of the project is to provide the decision makers a clear picture on adopting energy efficient technologies based on sustainable performances, as I mentioned earlier. As soon as we know the energy efficiency operation index for these vessels, they're above the baseline, then we can actually recommend technologies to actually reduce, to actually improve the energy efficiency operations on these vessels and reduce the carbon emissions. Carbon emissions is proportional to fuel consumption. The key objectives included the following for the project. Pilot Project 1, mapping the existing technologies and best practices utilized on board vessels trading in the Caribbean area between this period 2017 to 2018. There will be two types of data collection targets that will be established. The first initial period, which is June to December 2017, will be targeting around 20% of vessels within the Caribbean region. And from 2018, 1st Jan 2018 to December 2018, we will be targeting around 50% of vessels in the Caribbean region. To highlight the main energy consumers on board and the emission abatement methods used for these consumers, as mentioned earlier, what are the types of emissions methods in place on board these vessels to try and bring the energy efficiency operational index below the baseline that we will actually establish from the data collected. To determine the cost-benefit analysis for adopting energy efficient initiatives, including uptake of new technology in the Caribbean area. And finally, to promote the use of energy efficient measures through workshops and online information dissemination. The MTCC, we have already started here in Trinidad and Tobago, has engaged with existing national partners and networks in Trinidad and Tobago and begun collecting baseline data from ships calling into Trinidad and Tobago ports. In this regard, we would like this to be ongoing with our regional partners. So new networks with regional stakeholders and partners will be established to collect baseline data from regional ports. The project will target a minimum 20% of the total ships operating in the Caribbean region. As I mentioned earlier, the initial target for June to December 2017 is 20% of the vessels. From the latest report by UNCTAD, 2016 report, it's around 40,000 vessels trade in the Caribbean region annually. So that first 20% will be around 8,000 vessels targeted, and from the period 2018, 1st Jan to December 2018, we're looking at half of that number of vessels, around 20,000. So we really need a very good data collection method should be implemented. So what we have done is to acquire data from 20% of ships calling to the region's ports for this first initial period. It will require the establishing of reporting systems based on e-portals. The MTCC Caribbean, in partnership with the Trinidad and Tobago Maritime Ports Pilots Association, has utilized the Pilots app. We're really thankful to the Trinidad and Tobago Maritime Pilots Association for actually stepping up, and they were one of the first partners to actually put a hand up when we were trying to actually get everything working, especially for data collection. And they actually offered the use of the pilot app to get the data, which this is for the submission of the declarations when vessels call into ports, into the port of in Trinidad and Tobago. We have a form for maritime technology also included. So this form for maritime technology also includes the fuel consumption from ships. Once the information is captured and submitted, Integration with the existing Ministry of Trade's TTB's link single entry, single electronic window server will receive this information via email. The information received will be in Excel format and will be retrieved and stored in the MTCC Caribbean's data log recorder and analyzed to form a baseline for the 2 pilot projects. The MTCC, through partnerships with other Caribbean territories, shall seek to establish the same methods to capture data from ships calling into regional ports. So this is the flow chart for the data capture. We have the app for the pilots. This is the first. On the that's the app, which we've generously been given allowed to be used by the Pilots Association in Trinidad and Tobago. With that app, the shipmasters on the vessels or the crew on vessels will actually download the app. The app will actually show a data collection form to collect information on the maritime technology implemented on the vessels, and likewise the fuel consumption data. And that app, the information, when submitted, will be stored in the TTB's links server, and the MTCC, your MTCC Caribbean Center will access the information, will retrieve the information from the server through our login access, and then we'll store the information in our master data log recorder here in the center, and that information will be available for us for analysis. We'll actually filter the information to give you different types of vessels, different sizes of vessels. Once we've got the data, then analysis of the data will be conducted. I will show in the later slides what we have actually done so far to actually come up with a rolling average on the energy efficiency index indicator for vessels operating in the Trinidad and Tobago waters. So this is what will come up in the end. We'll have the different vessels, we have different EEOI for vessels, and for the different periods will be dated, and then using a formula through a rolling average, or using the regression analysis, which we have tested so far and used, we can come up with a rolling average for a specified time period. Like I mentioned yesterday, IMO actually, the data capture period should be 1 year or between 6 to 10 voyages. We're really thankful to one of our partners, the second one, which in fact, one of the first two, the Maritime Administration in Trinidad and Tobago, Ministry of Works and Transport's Maritime Services Division, who actually put out a shipping notice for the collection of data for the purpose of energy efficiency and fuel consumption, data collection, and was actually submitted on the 17th of May, but effective 1st June, it's effective now. Vessels are required to report on the energy efficiency. The maritime technology, which they have implemented on board the vessels, we've captured these two components into one form. Okay, so we can actually have a look when I show the later slides. We have the different types of technology and the fuel consumption actually consumed by these vessels. So this is the shipping notice. In the last slide, I actually mentioned in the outline, the second slide, one of the most important things I'll be actually touching on in this presentation is the establishment of partnership in the region. The objectives and outcomes of Pilot Project 1, 3 objectives. The first objective is to map the existing technologies and best practices utilized on board vessels trading in the Caribbean region between 2017 and 2018. I told you the two time periods. One is the initial period from June this year to December, and then from 2018 is the second period, which is for the 50% of vessels. The outcomes for this objective is the collection of data of existing energy efficient technology on board vessels, as I explained earlier, the data of best practice utilized on board ships, and comparison of the energy efficiency index of shipping in the region to others, to ascertain whether ships operate within the required energy efficiency index values as required by MAPOL and X6. This is the data collection form, which is submitted by the vessel, captured, retrieved from the TTB's link. It's in Excel format, as I mentioned earlier. These are some of the areas, will be the date period, the vessel name, year built, etc., the deadweight ton at summer log line, and the main propulsion engine, what type of propulsion they have, the propellers, auxiliary engines, types, number of auxiliary engines. So we're looking at the main fuel consumers on board these vessels. Likewise, the fuel figures, we have done something from the meeting yesterday. We mentioned to our partners from Panama, we actually put in cross-checking mechanisms to ensure that our fuel consumption actually is tallying up correctly. We know that there could be a limitation here or a real constraint on the type of information, credible information given, but we have means, okay, we have means to actually verify the actual fuel consumption. And then in the end, we can actually, we've even included the weather conditions. Okay? From the breakout session this afternoon, I will show you the effect of the different weather conditions. Using our simulators, we can actually simulate the different weather conditions and see its effect on the energy efficiency index. So from what we have so far, we can come up with our own, we put in our own calculator and come up with our own figures. You see that some of it's not showing any results. So these are some of the challenges we're facing so far. We've discussed with the director, MSD, and is going to sort it out. We actually know where the problems come from. The second objective is to highlight the main energy consumers on board vessels and emission abatement methods used for these consumers. Again, from the data collection form, we actually can pinpoint which are the main consumers. And this will provide areas of energy consumption where maximum scope for improvement is available using better technology, use of alternative fuels, and improve efficiency in operations. One of the key things we'll be doing, especially for capacity building in the region, through training, so that we can actually understand where these objectives come from and how it's applied on board vessels. So using our full mission and state-of-the-art simulators for the engine room simulators and navigation simulators that I'll present on the engine room simulator right here, we can actually verify the data collected and verify the energy efficiency results from collected data at different load conditions. At different load conditions, at different ship loaded conditions, the different trim and draft, water depths, weather conditions, and the different main propulsion engine loaded conditions. We can manipulate all these variables in real time and actually get our energy efficiency indicator showing at the same time. And verify the effect of different fuels on energy efficiency and the use of abatement methods to reduce other pollutants from exhaust emissions. So we have NOx and SOx, which are other pollutants, apart from the carbon emissions and carbon monoxide that contribute to greenhouse gas. We have to deal with these two. So we have those methods in place, which will be shown in the breakout session. And like I mentioned earlier, for capacity building purposes, nationally and regionally, through training and workshops on the use of uptake methods for efficient ship operations and using technology and ships operations. That's why we'll be fully utilizing and extensively using our simulators for this purpose. This is here for your MTCC Caribbean and see the effects on the energy efficiency and the amount of carbon emissions in the Caribbean region. And of course, we can actually come up with recommendations. We can map the benefits of using available technologies and operations with maximum benefit in identified areas. And of course, we can actually recommend the type of technology that can be used to actually bring the carbon emissions down and improve energy efficiency. These are some of the improvement methods that can be used on board vessels. So the first one is technical measures to improve energy efficiency. We have improvement of hull form, hydrodynamics by the reduction of propulsion resistance. Shown there is one, it's already in use now. We have air bubbles to actually reduce the friction. And when you reduce friction, you're actually reducing resistance, thereby reducing the amount of fuel consumed to actually provide power to actually move through the water. Improvement of engine propeller, this is one. We have contra-rotating propellers in use now. The waste heat recovery unit, as we explained yesterday, one of the questions. And utilization of renewable energy, solar, we can use solar, of course not for all the power, but for certain areas on board the vessel's operations, we can use green energy, renewable energy, solar, and of course, there are some vessels already tested using wind energy. Other measures, operational measures, optimization of vessel scheduling, or the optimization of operating plan for ships or fleet. The reduction of ship speed. We know that ship speed is proportional to the fuel consumption to the power of 3, or it's exponential. If you increase your speed, the fuel consumption will increase exponentially. Likewise, when it increases exponentially, you're looking at the amount of significant increase in carbon emissions. By reducing speed, you reduce the amount of carbon emissions significantly also. So this is one of the methods to actually improve energy efficiency, operating on speed reductions, but hopefully within the barriers of the charter party requirements. Using weather routing, right there. This is one software actually used on vessels, where it actually gives you a 10-day period of the weather conditions. So if you have severe weather conditions here, it will actually project you an alternative route to follow. Okay, that route will actually take you out of the path of the severe weather conditions, which will actually reduce the fuel consumption. We will use this scenario for the effect of weather conditions on fuel consumption. We will touch on this during the breakout session. Just-in-time arrival in port, hull cleaning, propeller polishing, and maintenance of engines are other operational measures to improve energy efficiency. This is the appraisal method I actually talked about. We'll be using appraisal methods. One is software-based. This is just a guide. We'll actually come up with our own. This is to actually appraise the technical and operational measures and its effect on the energy efficiency design index and operational index. It actually gives a cost analysis on the different types of methods we can actually use to actually improve the energy efficiency, some which I actually touched on earlier. Just going back, this software was funded by Canada Transport, developed by Technology Veritas and German Isikeli for the IMO. Pilot Project 2 on the implementation of fuel consumption data collection and reporting in line with IMO regulation. The project aims to establish a fuel consumption reporting system as guided by IMO. Recording this data will allow the vessel to be tracked through the region, providing data on fuel consumption between ports, the type of fuel used, ship speed between ports, and fuel consumption in port. This task will be completed by identifying the equipment and machineries inclusive of main propulsion engines, electrical generators, prime movers, boilers on board vessels, and recording the types of fuels burned and the amount of fuel consumed by vessels during voyages between ports while in the region. That was shown in the data collection form. I showed you the Excel format one. Ideally, the information and data collected will help in the development of an energy efficiency calculator, which has already been done. I showed you in the data collection form, the one we retrieved from TTB's link. We've already gone through all these 3 points. So we can actually develop the energy efficiency calculator required to measure the ship's energy efficiency and fuel consumption. These are the main tasks associated with pilot project 2. Some already done, some are yet to be, it's in front of us. We'll be moving towards those periods. Most of these have been done, as I explained earlier, forging relationships with our local partners and establishing the reporting system through using Trinidad Tobago Maritime Pilot Association's app, and of course with TTB's link server to collect the data. First target is 20% of vessels from June 27 to December 2017, an increase in data collection to 50% from Jan 2018 to December 2018, and of course the compilation and analysis of data we projected 2017. But like I said, I mentioned earlier, we can do a rolling average. Okay, if you put in your data, your energy efficiency operational index calculator in your collection ship, you can actually come up with your rolling average. And then communicating the compiled data to IMO by June 2019. And finally, like I mentioned earlier in the outline, this may be the most important slide in this presentation. It's the forging of partnerships for the pilot projects. For the success of the MTCC Caribbean pilot projects, there has to be partnership with maritime shipping stakeholders within the Caribbean region. That requires the active participation and support, which include the following. Just like what the MSD has done, hopefully through the maritime administrations, we can actually put out shipping notices for the collection of data from the ports within their jurisdictions. And the major port authorities, we also include the pilot associations. We've been explaining about the pilot app used by Trinidad and Tobago. Hopefully, this could be introduced in the other countries as well in the region. The shipping agents, technical operators, especially for the transfer of the technology, and ship owners. Contribution is expected in the form of data availability and access to technical information. Ladies and gentlemen, participants and delegates from the region, climate change is a reality, especially from global warming through greenhouse gas emissions. It is happening right now throughout the world, especially in the Pacific region, where there's mass exodus right now. Mass exodus from one of the countries in the Pacific who are starting to move people from outer-lying islands to another country, to Fiji in fact. They have bought large chunks of land in Fiji, and they have started to move people from the Kiribati to Fiji. So in closing, this is a concerted effort where the whole region has to actually participate in. And at the end of the project, the results of the project, which will actually show how much we actually were in partnership together to make this project a success. And in saying that, I thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you very much.